In Northwestern Law professor Shermin Kruse. She also teaches global transaction and is a TEDx producer as well. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, Professor.
Thank you so much, Dana, for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
You are also of Iranian descent, correct?
Correct, and I was born in Iran, and I lived there through the late 80s. So I was born in 77. The revolution occurred in 79. I left in 88, so I was there during sort of the first decade of the revolution, which was also during the Iran-Iraq war, at which time there were a lot of civilian attacks into Tehran, the capital city where I lived.
So this gives you a unique perspective, I think, on what's happening in the region, along with, of course, your credentials. So I want to ask you, many lawmakers, others also now questioning the timing of these strikes. This morning, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin said the reasons the Trump administration has given are not adding up. Let's first listen to what some of the senators said.
The president says that the aerial bombardment and the planes going into the drones going into Iran will end in 4 or 5 weeks. Trust me, I've been through this before with the Iraqi war. When you're talking about regime change, you're talking about a long-term commitment and troops on the ground.
So, Professor, what are your thoughts on that sort of criticism and also concern that this is going to end up a boots-on-the-ground conflict and could go on for a really long time?
It's a complicated question. Feel free to ask follow-ups. As far as the timing is concerned, it is definitely far less about the urgency of the threat and far more about the existence of a weakness that can be exploited. So to the extent, and this is something different that we can discuss, but to the extent it's a good idea to strike Iran and to go for a regime change, this is the weakest it's been in more than half a century. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthi rebels are at their weakest, and Assad is out of Syria. So a lot of its allies have either weakened or disappeared, and there's an internal revolution going on with a lot of people within Iran demanding change. And so if you're going to strike, timing-wise, it's probably a good time to strike. That, of course, is a separate issue from the question of imminent threat to the United States, which, as the senator pointed out, is not really an issue that exists at this time. Although there have been threats from Iran for the last ever since the revolution. So really for the last 45 years, there's nothing imminently that is about to be a strike. As far as the timeline and boots on the ground is concerned, I do think 4 to 5 months is definitely a very lofty ambition. I think it's extremely unlikely. We have never in history, even during our post-World War II successful liberation operations in South Korea, Germany, etc., we've never seen a regime change without boots on the ground. Does that mean it would be American boots on the ground? I don't know. Quickly, there are some allies that are jumping on board that may be able to assist with that component of the operation.
Well, also considering that these strikes killed the Iran supreme leader, we know from history that sometimes when you take out, if you will, the head of a government in a region that can be unstable, it actually creates a power vacuum and intensifies conflicts between different factions, right, that are vying to run the country, which could also, don't you agree, prolong this conflict?
Civil war is an absolute possibility. Given how quickly the Americans were able to kill the supreme leader, it's very reasonable to assume that they have a lot of intel and connections on the inner circle. And the American intelligence and Israeli intelligence have people on the inside. We don't know how many of those people are still alive. We don't know who they are. That's just information that's not accessible and available to us. But what we do know is that there's likely some sort of coordinated effort to direct the direction of Iran going forward. Whether or not there will be massive opposition that results in a civil war, it is quite possible. A lot of that will depend on how how weak they can get the IRGC within a short period of time, and whether or not that weakness will convince the IRGC to defect.
Professor,
and if they're able to defect and rally behind a particular leader that the U.S. and Israel support, then it's less likely to be a civil war situation. Of course, it introduces a whole host of other issues, but it's less likely to be a civil war situation in that scenario.
And Professor, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask you kind of a two-for question. I'm hoping you could give me, as best as you can, a concise answer. You know, a lot of members of Congress, mostly Democrats, saying this war was illegal because, A, the president never asked for congressional approval, and also with the death toll rapidly rising, are you concerned it's going to continue to do so?
The death toll will rise. That is definitely something that will occur. As far as the illegality of the war, it's not really, the constitutional argument is a really tough one to make. It'll be interesting to see if he can make a case for it. He certainly hasn't so far. The international law argument is also a tough one to make. It's very difficult to be able to sell this as a preemptive strike. He might be able to sell it as an R2P, which is a responsibility to protect that's been in place in the UN since 2005, but you do need Security Council approval for that, and he didn't obtain that. So the illegality question is a little bit more clear in that respect. But as far as the death toll, it will rise. Whether or not the situation will be a total catastrophe or not remains to be seen.
All right, Northwestern Law Professor Shermin Kruse, thank you so much. You have a lot of insight there, and certainly we hope you'll join us again as this war continues, if we would like to talk to you again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
One artist